Welcome back to another week here on MWO Sports. Ryan Drury here. I'll be joined by Steve Sabourin, and we will first chat with a special guest, the new GM of the Hanover Barons, Blair Buchart, of course, a former player himself. We'll chat with him about his transition to the front office and his outlook on his new managerial career path. Then Clarke will join us, and we'll talk about his Maple Leafs and a number of rumors around some of their free agent players. Is the Zach Hyman era over? Will Freddie come back? What did they do with Morgan Riley with a year left on his deal? Lots to talk about there. We'll chat a bit about the MLB All-Star Week as well, and an impressive showing again from Vlad Guerrero Jr. winning MVP honors. And we'll welcome back wagering expert Kris Abbott from CoolBet to give out some hot bets for the weekend as always. You're listening to and watching MWO Sports, brought to you by CoolBet.co.
This is MWO Sports.
Welcome back to MWO Sports, brought to you as always by CoolBet.co. Ryan Drury alongside Steve Sabourin. We're very pleased to be joined by a special guest this week, the new general manager of the Hanover Barons Hockey Club, someone familiar to hockey fans in our area, Blair Buchart. How are you, Blair?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
We really appreciate you joining us, man. Now, obviously, you transitioning into a front office role, I think maybe caught some people off guard around here because you're still such a young guy, still probably plenty of hockey left in you. Just tell us a little bit about the decision process there and what inspired you to transition from at least playing on the ice the majority of the time to the general manager's chair. And what's that transition been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, every year when I've been playing, I've always been intrigued, the management role and, kind of developing the business aspect, I guess you could say, of it. And ever since I think I was about 13 or 14, I wanted to, go to sports management at Brock. And, that was always something I was kind of put my effort into. So I think, I really enjoyed that first year. And, coming through, I had a couple of great conversations with, some professors there and teachers and, ways to, kind of put yourself out there and develop that. And I think, I love every minute of playing junior. It's the best times of your life. It was a great opportunity, but I was just always just fascinated by the front office stuff. And I think, I with getting an opportunity, from Hanover, I was just something I was really excited about. And I think it's a great way to, kind of get into that opportunity and, kind of develop my, front office skills as a manager.
So what was the first item of business that you had to take care of stepping into the role?
I guess, right away, right when it was decided, I was kind of going right from the start. And, me and Mike and the whole organization as a whole kind of worked together. And I think, we brought in, recently Trevor Beek and Jonah White. So I think having those two, very, very well-known players come into this organization, I think that's a huge start and a stepping stone, and I think they're great leaders, and I think that's a great place to begin, I guess.
Yeah, that acquisition, I'm glad you brought that up because, of course, we wanted to ask you about that. That definitely caught the eyes of people here in Listowel. Trent Verbeek, of course, he's got a lot of experience. He's won an awful lot in hockey, much like yourself, of course, being part of that Cherry Cup and Sutherland Cup run and another Cherry Cup as well. And then Jonah White has been one of the key players for the Listowel Cyclones alongside Trent for the last couple of seasons. The Hanover Barons, over the last few years, through the means of a lot of young players, particularly homegrown young players, have really improved. Last year, they were a really exciting team. Now you add these two veteran guys. I mean, that's got to have your club with a pretty positive looking outlook. I mean, are you shooting for top 3 or bust in the division? Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think, bringing these guys in, it excites everybody, the town, the organization, the players firsthand, it kind of just gives you that, up and roar again, we're ready to go. We're here to prove something. I think for sure, we expect to be competitive every single game. And I think we have very high expectations for our club as a whole. I think the players, they're excited, they're ready to go. And, I think everybody's just hungry to get back on the ice.
It takes a community effort to put a community team together. What sort of things have been happening over the last couple of months with the team off the ice? Fundraisers, I guess, some events to help the organization itself. What have you been able to do?
Yeah, no, for sure. actually this past weekend we had a really good bottle drive and, you know, fundraiser in Hanover itself. So, you know, a lot of the players were going all through the areas and you know, collecting bottles and cans from a lot of the people around. And we had an amazing turnout, you know, a lot more than we even expected. You know, everybody was excited to see everybody, and, you know, it was great to get out. I think it was just the boys getting to show your faces out in the community, you know, get everybody back and excited. You know, it's been almost two years now since hockey's been out. So I think, you know, just that first weekend, you know, getting everybody back together, I think that was a really good start. And I think, you know, getting out in the community was one of the greatest things we did so far.
We're chatting with Blair Buchart, the general manager of the Hanover Barons of the Provincial Junior Hockey League, Junior C League here in the Pollock division that we cover, of course, at CKNX. We can't wait to get back in the rink and get to the P&H Center and maybe have a chat with you live there. That would be nice. The last time we saw you live, Blair, the playoffs were still going on, the 2020 playoffs, which, of course, got cut short. You guys were only 2 games deep. I believe it was only 2 games against Wingham when COVID hit and everything unfortunately got canceled. Of course, the Mount Forest Patriots, who you were playing for at the time, gunning for a 3rd straight title. You were a big part of those titles that they did manage to win. And of course, you spent a lot of time in Junior B as well with St. Mary's, who we're familiar with. You bring an awful lot of winning pedigree into the front office now. I mean, you've got a unique perspective that, you know, probably a lot of other executives to a degree don't have. You're coming out of a winning environment immediately into the GM's chair. What sort of mentality will that help you with in terms of, you know, winning so much on the ice and knowing what it takes to build a winner in the Pollock division?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think you said right there, you know, knowing what it takes, you know, being in those opportunities in different situations too, right? Like, when I was 17, you know, I remember coming back from a series down 3-0 and, you know, digging deep and seeing, you know, what it takes in that situation. And then I think my next season, you know, we kind of had a really good year in Mount Forest and kind of was on top and kind of rolled our way through the league that year. And I think, you know, we've been on both sides of the spectrum. And, you know, I know other guys in our organization like Thomas and Mike, you know, they were there in Mount Forest as well when that happened. And I think, you know, they helped explain, you know, when we were there, what you have to do to win and how is that going to come aboard. So I think, you know, just having those little aspects of in-game decisions, in-game trades when it gets to the playoffs and just overall feeling everything out, you know, you want to have everybody on the same page, and just as long as it's a well-oiled machine, you know, everything will go well.
Tell us a little bit about the coaching staff and the communication you have with them, and, you know, what sort of the game plan is and how this team is going to roll headed into the season.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we have Pete and Chad, you know, Pete Irwin and Chad Bolton, you know, they're our 2 assistant coaches right now. And, you know, we're still in the means for a head coach. And I think, you know, it's a decision we'll obviously all make together as a group. I think we didn't want to rush into anything right away. You know, it's still July. We have a long time. I think we want to make sure it's the right guy, obviously, coming in with the guys we have. You want, your team's only as good as your head coach. So I think, you know, once as a group, we kind of figure out what we're doing. I think, you know, we're always looking, and I think it's just a matter of what we decide to do and when it'll come above us.
Blair, I'm curious as well, just, you know, obviously you were such a great player in this league and at the junior level. I mean, we had the pleasure of watching you for a long time and the impact that you had on those winning clubs in Mount Forest. What was that like experiencing that? Because, you know, even when I first started at CKNX and in the years just prior to that, the Patriots were still, you know, a little bit of a struggling club. They were finishing 6th, 5th, last sometimes. You and that young group, you know, that came in and, you know, with the Stefanellis and guys like that we had a lot of fun watching. You guys were part of the turnaround. And now the Patriots have become, you know, a model franchise. I mean, what was that like for you experiencing that, coming in as a young player when the team was in transition and seeing it rise to incredible levels of winning? What was that like to experience as a player?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. It was, you know, when you're a kid, you know, you see those underdog stories that come up, and next thing you know, they're on top. And, you know, to actually get to junior, you know, you're excited to be in junior, and you start off as your team. You know, you had a good core there. You know, Trevor Houston and Doug Costanzo, Doug Artis. That we had a great group of guys, Mitch Betts, and I think that was a great group that, you know, kind of gave us a great example. And, you know, firsthand, you know, John Antonopoulos, Rob Nixon, Trent McClement, you know, Mike Fisher. Those 4 kind of brought that group together and kind of, for me personally, at least, kind of showed me the ropes, showed me what junior hockey's like, how a team and organization's managed. I was there for a long time, and that's what I've known. Went to St. Mary's. I was obviously with Trent. Trent did the same thing. He brought a lot of what he's known, and you saw from St. Mary's his first season to the second season, they had a huge improvement, right? And that's just buying into the systems and doing what you've experienced and what you've seen, because like for what we've been a part of, it's worked and it's gotten done every time. So I think just being able to make decisions on the fly, but as well as go with what I think it all comes in together as one.
You know what, Blair? It's interesting because this is something coming up this season that we've never seen before. I've never seen before. A whole league, it takes a year off, a year and a bit, really. No practicing, no games. Everything's on the down low. Everybody's back to that starting line. What's going to be the key factor for your team in getting off on the right foot?
Yeah, I think for sure, one of the bigger messages I know we sent to the team at the bottle drive, and then is, come to camp in shape. You don't know, it's been 2 years. It's if other people aren't working, someone else is. And, those guys, I believe, are going to have a huge advantage over, any sorts of hockey players at the start of the year, whether you were a top player at the start. If you're not ready to go by the time the year starts, the people who have been putting the work in will have the advantage. I truly believe. I think it just comes down to, what guys want to come and what guys don't. And the hardest working guys normally come through and prevail, right? So I think just getting ready to go and being ready when camp's there.
Blair, like I said, you were one of the most skilled players we ever watched, certainly at the junior C and junior B levels over the last number of years. It was a ton of fun watching you when you had the puck on your stick. We were kind of joking around before the interview talking about foot injuries. Well, some of the stuff you used to do on the ice, I'd get a foot injury if I tried to do some of it. You were such a slick player, creative offensively. Who were some guys that you maybe like to watch at the pro level, or maybe not even the pro level, locally at the junior level? Who are some guys, players that you like to watch that you kind of took inspiration and applied it to your own game? Yeah,
no, for sure. I think, I've always been like a pass first guy, and that was kind of one of the biggest things I ever did. And, when I was a kid, I loved Datsuk. Datsuk was my favorite guy. One of them growing up. I love the style he brought into the game. It was always a different style. And even coming to Mount Forest, it was crazy. I loved watching the way guys in our team played. Trevor Houston had that wicked shot. You'd sit there and watch, and you'd sit there, wow, like these guys, the stuff they could do. And I think I just a bit of a mixture of both, I guess you could say. Well, Pavel, I love watching the way they played. I guess it was more or less, I like to play different because I always knew I was a pass first guy, but just a kind of a all around, I was a little struggle when I was younger in the own end of the ice. And I think that was the biggest thing as I got older, having to learn, that how important it is. You really, as you get older, you realize, that's what wins you games. So I think, I really enjoyed watching, as much as I hate the Boston Bruins. You see Patrice Bergeron, the stuff he does out there, right? So, I've always tried to be optimistic and, be my own guy, but I've always liked to take things from anybody you can.
You said Pavel Datsuk. Did you use his curve on the ice? Was that your stick?
I actually had the Ovechkin curve. I was a big Ovechkin guy when I was a kid. I was number 8, where I used the yellow laces, the tongue out, and I just didn't shoot the puck. So that was the only problem, the way it was. But
you just opened the floodgates now. You're looking at the number 1 Ovechkin fan with the Oakland A's hat on. My goodness.
Absolutely. No, and what's funny about you mentioning that is I noticed your curve one night and I asked the coaching staff, is he using the Ovechkin curve? And they said, yeah, he is. And I just had to chuckle to myself because it's such a goofy looking curve, but it seemed to work for you.
Yeah. I got made fun of. He had the biggest curve in the league, and the guy took the less shots a night. So
yeah,
it was always just him and Hahn. But I felt it helped me pass the puck, so I used it.
Well, hey, you can't complain then. If the tool works, it works, man. I'm curious as well, Blair. Obviously, this is a great stepping stone for you. You mentioned you've always been interested in the managerial side of things and the business side of the game. Ultimately, you're such a young guy. I believe you're only 22 years old, if math serves me correctly. What's ultimately your goal? Like, do you have a big goal in mind on the way? Where would you like to take this in terms of a career path?
Yeah, no, for sure. I like I said, being in sports management, it's something, I've always wanted to do. And, there's a lot of kids in that program. And I think, my long-term goal is, to set myself up for success, to move up as high as I can in the hockey world. If you can show you can prove and win and run a good organization, that's the least you can ask at a young age. Right. So I have long-term goals. I want to do my best and, try to get a spot into the OHL eventually someday and, work to there. It's going to take, a lot of hard work. And I think, coming in here, I'm ready to, prove myself at a young age, especially at this league. I'm excited to get an opportunity, given this, I'm forever grateful for. So I'm just ready to take advantage of it and, not waste any minutes.
Absolutely. And I know that you mentioned earlier that you don't like the Boston Bruins. Can I safely assume you're a Toronto Maple Leaf fan?
I am, yes. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, our co-host, Clarke, who will join us after this segment, we're going to have a very deep dive on the Maple Leafs. There's a lot of storylines flying around. Let's put your GM hat on and assume that you are taking over for Kyle Dubas this summer. What are some of the things that you would do? Zach Hyman's rumored to potentially be moving on. Morgan Rielly only has a year left on his deal. The Leafs have cap problems, of course. What are some things heading into next season that you would maybe do with this current group?
Yeah, it's crazy because everybody, it seems like that Leafs fans, they all put on Twitter that they can be the Leafs GM and they all give their insights, and I do the same thing at home, right? I do it at home every day. I write it up and I have phone calls with people, but no, I mean, Hyman, it's tough there because he knows he can get more somewhere else. I mean, the best thing you can do is maybe give him the pitch that this is the team, this is your group that you've been with, and hopefully he does like what Travis Dermott did. Took a pay cut, and then Dermott had not a great season, and look at that. Now he's not even making anything as much, right? So I think that situation's tough. I heard rumors that they may be looking, teams are talking to him. I think you can trade his rights than before. Is that correct? So if that, that's another thing, and the Leafs goalie, I think Campbell's a good goalie, and, I think he is, but you never know. You want a good goalie. I think Freddie's going to go. I personally believe so. I don't know. I think his confidence might have dropped a little bit in that playoff. So I think, but it could also spark him again if he signs for less because he knows the role and it gives him a little motivation, right? Freddie, I said it before, Freddie never played a playoff game with any pressure on him before. He's always been the number one goalie. So Jack Campbell finally came in and he never got a chance. But if he did, who knows what would have happened. But it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do. I mean, I'm excited for next season. Like, I heard rumors about Taylor Hall too. Like, God knows how we could afford that and what they'd have to do that. But I mean, that you bring in firepower, but we'll see what the expansion draft comes up with, and that'll be interesting.
That's going to be the knuckleball and the whole thing, right? The Kraken expansion draft, and heard today that Skinner from Buffalo, of course, they didn't protect him. He waived his no trade clause, and whether or not Seattle will pick up that big contract, Buffalo's probably banking on whether they'll kind of shy away from that millions of dollars that is still owed. So.
It's crazy the amount of guys that get those amazing years and they rush into those big contracts and they're sitting there smiling like, Minnesota just bought out Suter and Parise like that. They're definitely interested in something big too. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, there's going to be some movement for sure. I read an article today as well that maybe the Leafs would potentially be in on trying to chase down Darcy Kemper of the Arizona Coyotes, who is on a very friendly deal. He would be a great tandem partner for Jack Campbell. He's really distinguished himself the last couple of years. And let's be honest, Blair, I don't know how much you listen to this show, but Steve and the guys know that if there's one organization I like to rag on, it is the Arizona Coyotes. So they can barely afford to pay anybody. So I bet you they'd be very willing to shed $3.5 million to let the Maple Leafs have him. That would be a pretty good tandem, don't you think?
Absolutely, exactly. I think Campbell is a great goalie. He's the best backup goalie in the NHL by far, and it's he's a good goalie when he has someone to compete with. And I think Kemper could come in and be excellent. If those two are battling back and forth in reliable contracts, Toronto could be good next year. We say this every year, but I'm excited. I think they've really learned from what they've lost. They haven't lost to Boston every time this year. It's something different, right? So you get an opportunity to grow from that. 3-1 series, you blow to Montreal. Got to learn from it for sure.
Absolutely. That would be the hope of all of Leafs Nation. Blair, we really appreciate you doing this, buddy. Congratulations on the new role, general manager of the Hanover Barons. I think you're going to do a great job. And who knows, man, maybe in 10 years' time, maybe less. Who knows? We'll be talking to you from the offices in Toronto. You never know.
I really appreciate you guys having me. I appreciate the kind words too, guys. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Blair. We appreciate it, buddy. Best of luck this season. All right, we'll take a quick break. Like I said, when we come back, Clarke will jump on here and we'll dig into all the rumors surrounding the Maple Leafs. Who's going to get drafted by Seattle? Who's going to get traded? Who's going to get re-signed? Lots to talk about in the NHL landscape. Coming up next on MWO Sports, brought to you by coolbet.co.
This is MWO Sports.
Welcome back to MWO Sports, brought to you by coolbet.co. Ryan Drury still alongside Steve Sabourin, and our buddy Clarke has joined the show.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, sir. We appreciate our friend Blair Buchart, the general manager of the Hanover Barons, for joining us last segment. Breaking news here as we record this, the Barons have further added to their coaching staff. Brady Anderson, former Listowel Cyclone and former Listowel Cyclone coach over the last couple seasons when we were still playing hockey anyway. He has joined the Barons staff. Of course, a Chesley native, a little closer to home for him, still wanted to be involved with the game. So another great add for the Barons as they continue their youth movement, if you will, behind the bench and
you know what?
Chairs.
It's interesting because success breeds success, right? Look at the pieces they're putting together in Hanover. This is going to be a great PGHL season. Like I mentioned to Blair, everybody's going to be starting, right at that first block, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this whole league plays out.
It is. It's going to be great. And over the next couple of weeks, we will have other members from the other teams that we haven't talked to yet. Of course, Hanover tonight. We talked with Josh Keel of the Mitchell Hawks recently on a show as well. We will be continuing to roll out our PGHL content. Guys, before we dive into Clarke's Maple Leafs and a bunch of other stuff going on in the NHL and, of course, Major League Baseball as well. It was All-Star Week this week. I want to send well wishes to Barrie as we record this. A pretty nasty tornado touchdown in Barrie today, Thursday, July 15th, as we record this. So we're definitely sending our thoughts to the community of Barrie. The damage looks really, really bad at the south end of town there. So we're hoping that everybody is okay. Let's move into talking about the Maple Leafs. Clarke, it sounds like the Zach Hyman era in Toronto is all but over. There are rumors that the team is allowing his agent to talk to other teams about potentially doing a trade for his rights so that a team that acquires him could sign him to a longer deal. Of course, the Edmonton Oilers rumored to be very interested in him. There will, of course, be other suitors, Vancouver as well, interested in his services. Your impression of this and what could end up becoming a quote-unquote cap casualty of your Maple Leafs?
Yeah, obviously not the guy I think most Maple Leaf fans wanted to lose. In fact, he'd probably be on the top of the list of guys not wanting to lose. I don't know, Ryan, what do you think he will garner on the unrestricted market? Like, that's what I'm curious about. He's got a lot of things going for him in the city of Toronto. Obviously, the Maple Leafs would be looking for him to take the old home team discount. But at the end of the day, money talks and people walk because of it. And we'll see. But what do you think he'll get? Like, where do you think he'll be? 4 to 5?
That's the thing. I just have a feeling Edmonton will make a play to get him. They'll have to shuffle some things around, but that's been a rumor for a while, even leading up to the playoffs, that Edmonton would be a destination that would definitely be interested in him should he hit the market. I bet you somebody's going to probably pay him $5 million. And is he worth $5 million? I don't know, because I don't know how much you can quantify. I think a lot of people, when it comes down to contracts, they look at goals and assists and that's about it. And they quantify a dollar value to that. It's hard to measure or put a dollar figure on grit and hard work and determination and forechecking, which Zach Hyman is one of the best in the league at. He's got great Corsi numbers. I mean, if you want to dig into advanced analytics, he's an analytics darling there. Here's the thing, though, that I would say, and why I personally would back off of giving him that much money, is this guy's had some significant knee injuries over the last couple of years. And that's always a concern. A guy that's already not that strong of a skater has had some significant knee problems. But I think some team will probably, because he's south of 30 still, will give him probably $5 million. You'd like to see him settle in around the 3.5, 3.8 range.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If the Leafs offered him 6-7 years at 3.5 and another team offers him 3 years at 5, what's he taking? I think it'd be stupid not to take the term. That's my opinion. For a guy with his kind of skill, if you can get a 6-7 year deal now north of 3, I think he should take it. And as I was meant, like, he's got a lot of things going for the city of Toronto. He's from Toronto. He writes books. He has deals with
young family,
with sponsors, young family. And you know what? This guy's never, I don't think, ever going to take the heat that a Mitch Marner takes, because he's a kind of player that the city of Toronto loves.
That's very true. And if we know anything about the core of the Leafs fan base, they have always appreciated the muck and grind guys. Like, even in the Sundin days when I was a kid and everybody was big on the Leafs, like, who were the guys that were the folk heroes? Gary Roberts, Darcy Tucker, Ty Domi. Like, there were jerseys of those guys everywhere, you know? So yeah, there's something to be said for having the safety of term. I can't put myself in Zach Hyman's head. I guess given the situation you just put in front of me, I would take the term and stay on a good team on a line with Austin Matthews where I know that I fit in. But some other team that's desperate to, beef up their forward core, like in Edmonton, is probably going to give him the term he wants and the money he wants. So who knows? It'll be interesting to see, but it's sounding like the Zach Hyman era could potentially be over in Toronto. Sounds like maybe they're still kicking tires on your buddy Freddie Anderson. They are not shopping his rights around, and they are allegedly still talking about potentially bringing him back. What are your thoughts on that, Clarke?
Well, just to finish Zach Hyman, they may be playing with the agent and Zach's mind a little bit, and thinking, if we want to stay in Toronto, these guys are serious. They're going to trade me if not. But anyway, so they could be doing. It's all a game, right? It's all a game, and it's all about money.
Agents, you're right. Yep,
right.
Absolutely.
So they could be putting a little pressure on them there. Freddie, you can't sign this guy for more than $3 million. And if you do, you're stupid in my mind. Like, you can't. He hasn't proved it. And will the Leafs go in with Jack Campbell and nothing else? I think they're ready to do it. And like, this team could be taking a step backwards if they lose Hyman. I don't think they're taking a step backwards if they lose Anderson, but they could maybe go out and sign another free agent goalie for $2 or $3 million a year that, quite frankly, could, I think, compete the same level Freddie Anderson does.
Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think the money's better spent going the Zach Hyman route. Like, if you need to, grab another $500,000 and you lose Freddie, but you keep Zach, I mean, that's where your energy's got to go. Jack's proven himself. I mean, I'm sorry. He had a fantastic year and playoff run, and there's no reason why he can't duplicate that. You do need a solid backup to maybe...
You do.
Kill some time off the clock so you don't burn out your number one guy. But, let's look at the history. I mean, so big in analytics and numbers. Did the Leafs do any worse than when Freddie was in net? No,
they didn't. The thing you said leading in there is what scares me, though, a little bit, and why they need to beef up the goalie position. He had a good year. But
he still had a good playoff too.
He had a good playoff, but Fred, you're telling me you're going to lose one of your hardcore guys and keep a goaltender who used to be your starter to go into a backup role, who hasn't really stepped up to the plate and given you that home run you needed. Like, it seems very backwards to me. Very backwards.
I agree, and I don't think Freddie will be back because at the end of the day, I just don't think the money will work, and he's not going to want to take enough of a discount to make it make sense. Mm-hmm. And, when we were chatting with our buddy Blair Buchart, there's rumors that they would be sniffing around a guy like Darcy Kemper, who would be an excellent tandem pair with Jack Campbell, and a guy that I think has proven over a longer period of time than Jack Campbell on a worse team and put up better stats, that he could really, really push Jack Campbell. And I think if a guy like Darcy Kemper were to be acquired by the Maple Leafs, he would end up being your starter, just based on what I've seen him do over the last 3 years in Arizona. And there's where, again, like we said with our friend Blair Buchart, where I think that might be a likely way that they go, because let's be honest here. The Arizona Coyotes are a joke. They're a mess of an organization. They miss paying players all the time and staff. There was that story out in The Athletic about how toxic their newest, latest 50th ownership group is. They bounce checks all the time. I think they'd love to offload $3.5 million, I believe is what he's making. And he'd fit in great with the Leafs and fit into their pay structure. Here's the thing. We're a couple days away, less than a week from the expansion draft. And I'm decently confident that Alexander Kerfoot will get taken by Seattle. There's $3.5 million gone. Could you not figure out a way to make it work with Zach Hyman? Because here's the thing, Clarke, and I'd love your thoughts on this. I look at the bottom of this roster, and as good as Jason Spezza played, I look at the rest of that bottom six, and I don't love what I see. I don't see a playoff winner there. There are a lot of guys that are decent players. Mikheyev, decent player, hurt. Pierre Engvall, decent player, not overly effective, not very big, doesn't really bring a whole lot to the table. I think that this team, because of their cap situation, if you lose a guy like Zach Hyman, who are you leaning on now outside of someone in free agency that would cost you more money anyway?
Maybe, yeah.
To fill this out. Nick Robertson, a 21-year-old kid who I think is going to be a good NHL player, but that's who you're going to lean on. That's what's going to push you over the top and round out a championship roster. I don't think so. And that's no disrespect to Nick Robertson, but I just don't think that leaning on a 21-year-old kid, because you look down the way, and we talked about this with our buddy Cooley last week, Steve Coolius. You look at Tampa Bay and everyone's saying, well, now the cap's going to get them. The cap's going to get them and they're going to lose this and that. They don't care. They draft so well. The Leafs have nobody of high quality coming in their system, let alone a goalie. Let's be honest.
There's no question about that. You went on that rant last week. I totally agree with you.
They're awful at drafting. They haven't developed a goaltender since Felix Potvin. If you want to throw James Reimer in there, okay, for 30 games.
Tuukka Rask was a good draft choice.
But
didn't develop him.
I know.
But if you had your choice to pick to keep Hyman or keep Freddie.
Oh, Hyman.
There's no doubt Hyman. But you know what, guys? It gets back to that same argument that we've talked about all along. There needs to be some changes on this roster. And I'm like, Cooley said the next 2 or 3 weeks is really going to be a telltale of this franchise and where we're heading. And if they don't do anything, like, there's got to be some changes. And maybe it's not Mitch Marner that I've been, advocating. Maybe it's not Mitch Marner, but maybe it's Morgan Riley. Maybe they go, you know what? Morgan Riley's a good defenseman, but we need to toughen up back there a little bit. And we could get rid of Morgan's contract. He's a free agent next year, if I believe.
Yep.
So maybe you get rid of Morgan Riley now. Like, there's got to be a shakeup on this roster. And maybe, I don't know where it's going to be. And it better not be like because Hyman and Freddie leave. There needs, like, Dubas is on the clock here. And I just cannot see how they can go back into this next season with basically the same team. If they can shuffle some of the players around and figure it out that way, I think they need to do something. But I don't know if it's Mitch Marner.
And I'm glad you brought up Morgan Riley, because that's another dominant storyline among the fan base right now. Do you trade Morgan Riley while he's still on a friendly contract to a team that could potentially re-sign him and reap the benefits of that later, and potentially go after a guy like Dougie Hamilton, who it's sounding like the Carolina Hurricanes are not close to coming to a deal with?
I've never been a huge fan. I've never been a huge fan of Dougie Hamilton, but he's a big boy. And I've been, you look at Montreal and what they did, and let's be honest. Like, you talk about the Leafs bottom six and not seeing them as a Stanley Cup. Like, no one thought Montreal's were either. And like, all you need is some good fortune and things can go well at the right time. But this team needs to make their own fortune right now because they haven't been able to do it. And they need to get their guys. Like, how many more games I'm going to say it again, can they have Mitch Marner go without scoring a goal in the playoffs? I don't care how many scores during the season. I don't care. He's a first-team All-Star. Is Tkachuk available in Calgary? Let's do a deal.
Yeah, there are rumors about that. You bring up Calgary, there's rumors about all their big stars. Monahan, Gaudreau, they've only got a year left. I mean, they're, rumored to be maybe in the trade mill for the right piece. And yeah, Dougie Hamilton, again, a big guy. He doesn't really use his size. He's more of a finesse player. I love him from the offensive blue line in. He'll score plenty of points for you. I don't know that he's that different than what Morgan Riley is, just a couple inches taller that doesn't hit anybody.
Yeah.
Is that worth $7.5 million?
No.
I mean, I don't
That's
think
why I
so,
said I've never been a
personally.
huge fan of Dougie Hamilton if he uses his size, because he's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's
I
a
think
real big guy.
I think he's a very limited hockey player, to be perfectly honest, given the position that he plays. If he was a right winger, he'd be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, there was always rumors about Dougie Hamilton and Nylander rumors when he was holding out, right? But
yeah, that's right.
I don't know.
It's interesting. Other news around the league, obviously the Edmonton Oilers made a decently big splash, not in terms of necessarily an addition, but just the headline, the name attached to it. Duncan Keith and all of his $5.5 million salary for the next 2 years is headed to Edmonton in exchange for Caleb Jones, a young defender, and a third-round pick. I was baffled by this move. I couldn't stop shaking my head at Kenny Holland. I mean,
Totally agree.
I'm really confused by the move. Like, not to say Caleb Jones is going to be a world beater or anything like that, but a guy under team control on a very minute contract. And fine, you're going to give up a young guy. I understand the whole adage of adding a veteran presence, a guy that's won 3 cups, multiple Norris trophies.
But didn't it, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't he healthy a few times this past year? A healthy scratch?
Well, just because of health issues, yeah. And I mean, he was a healthy scratch down the stretch as well. He's
for Chicago.
Years old. Yeah, for Chicago. He's 38 years old. I understand the pedigree and everything that he, has represented as a player and as a winner. I understand that. It's just
great.
What bothered me about it was you trade a young player with a little more cost certainty and absorb the entirety of the cap. Like, in my opinion, fine. You want to trade Caleb Jones and bring in Duncan Keith, fine. But it should have been Chicago giving the 3rd-round pick, maybe even a 2nd-round pick, to be taking on the entire salary to lose a young defenseman who, let's see what he turns into, but that's beyond the point, and a pick, and have the team not retain any salary on a roster that's already a little cap strapped themselves in Edmonton. I was baffled by the move. I could not believe that they wanted that they let that deal go through and didn't retain salary. And it looks worse now because in the last couple days, Ryan Suter got bought out in Minnesota alongside his friend Zach Parise. Yeah. And Keith Yandel, as we record this today on Thursday, got bought out by the Florida Panthers. You could have had 2 guys that are younger and equally as effective as what Duncan Keith's going to give you for less.
Maybe the Maple Leafs should look at those guys.
Maybe the Maple Leafs should. Apparently the rumors are, and apparently Ryan Suter's really unhappy getting bought out of Minnesota. I understand. Yeah. Apparently the rumor is that he would like to go to Washington potentially. As a Caps fan, I mean, I'd be okay with that depending on the price tag. And but Keith Yandel, maybe he is a guy that good power play guy. He would really improve their power play. I'll tell you that. But
getting back to Edmonton, what is it with the Edmonton general managers? Like, before him, it was Peter Chiarelli. Like, there's been some bad trades. Now, maybe this will all work out at the end, but yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't look good to me off the bat. And, when you mentioned Edmonton, I thought of Mike Smith, who I think made $1.5 million last year, is a free agent this year. I'd rather have Mike Smith than Freddie Anderson. As a backup, especially at $1.5 million. Anyway,
you never know.
Throw that out there.
And of course, other news breaking this week as well. Recent Stanley Cup finalist Shea Weber sounds like he's going to miss all of next season, and it sounds potentially like his career might be in jeopardy with a really serious ankle and foot issue. And remember, he signed a really huge deal back in the Nashville days when Philadelphia offer sheeted him. Believe it was a 14-year deal. If he does end up having to go on IL and then retiring, Nashville is going to get hit with one of those cap recapture penalties like we saw in Vancouver with the Luongo thing. And it's big money. Big problems for Nashville, and Montreal will have to absorb some of it as well. So, not good news.
And we can't forgo the biggest injury of all after the Stanley Cup Finals. Lord Stanley's suffering the upper body injury in the boat parade.
Oh my!
Got his bell rung, to say the least, and is headed for some repairs. So.
Pat Maroon had an unfortunate incident with Lord Stanley, someone he's very well acquainted with now, 3 straight years.
They're comfy. They know each other.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Stanley will forgive Pat, I think. But yeah, the Cup needing to go back to Montreal for some repairs. It was interesting. Guys, let's talk baseball. It was All-Star Week this week, and what a showing by Vladdy Jr. again. I mean, running out of adjectives to describe this kid, what he's doing as a Blue Jay, what he means to this franchise. He is the youngest All-Star Game MVP of all time. He hit the 200th home run in All-Star Game history. He was fantastic.
Did you see the side-by-side shot of him and Tatis when he was up to bat and they had Tatis on the side and they threw him the inside pitch and Tatis is like, oh no.
Yeah, he just put his hands on his head. It was incredible. And
it was incredible. And you know what? Jays fans have to be excited. And what a hand Bo Bichette got during the player introductions. Of course, his dad, Dante, a big Colorado Rockies
that's right.
Alumnus. So, and it was fantastic to watch. But I think Vlad Guerrero definitely made some noise on the international stage. Because let's face it, you know, he's a big guy. Or when I say big guy, big player, he puts up the stats. But he plays for Toronto, and there's a lot of markets down in the U.S. that don't pay attention. But, you know, he put on a show. And you look at the other, like, Marcus Semien was 1 for 2. Teoscar Hernandez was 1 for 2 at the plate in an All-Star game. That's pretty decent when you haven't seen a lot of these pitchers. So they did the club and they did Toronto proud.
They did, and I agree with Ryan. Like, I think the Jays are very, very close to being a real contender here. And as we go down, you know, this next stretch, it's going to be fun to watch this team again. I've been one of those fair weather fans lately that if they're winning, I'll watch them. And I think I'm going to start watching them more and more now because I think they're there. I really do. Guys, just a little side note to the All-Star game. What did you watch Sportsnet?
No, I watched the game on Fox MLB.
Yeah. Like the broadcast was like night and day. I thought the broadcast on Sportsnet was atrocious. It was an international feed, obviously, and the one on Fox was outstanding. I can't remember the player they were interviewing during the game, but it was absolutely fabulous during like each pitch, and he was talking to the umpire, and that's the kind of stuff that you need in an All-Star game, right?
Yeah, it was great. I watched all of it. Yeah, Ozzy Albies, they had him on. They had Liam Hendricks mic'd up at the end, which they needed him on a 5-second delay because, you know, being an Oakland A's fan, now he's sadly with the White Sox, watching Liam pitch the last couple of years. He's animated on the mound. And again, you know, just wrapping up our discussion about the All-Star break, Shohei Ohtani, he was the story going in.
They get burnt out though, right? Like in the home run derby, they get burnt out.
He was gassed. He was really trying to pull the pitches. And I actually won some nice money on Cool Bet. Betting on the polar bear Pete Alonso to repeat as home run derby champion. He's one of 2 players ever to repeat as home run derby champion. Yoenis Cespedes, the other one escapes me right now, but Power Pete was fantastic. But yeah, Ohtani still hit a lot of huge bombs, and then of course he's the winning pitcher in the All-Star game for the American League. I mean, this guy is just such a freak. It's incredible to watch what Shohei Ohtani is doing for the sport as a whole. Unfortunate news out of Major League Baseball. A number of the Yankees have tested positive for COVID-19, including Aaron Judge, who of course took part in the All-Star game, Garrett Cole as well. Yeah.
So, like, all those guys at the All-Star game now, like, they better be tested.
People are at risk.
And not only that, this could really put a damper. Like, a lot of people thought the Blue Jays were going to be making their home debut maybe in even 2 or 3 weeks.
That's right.
I don't know. Now, with this going on, like, you know.
Yeah, they had July 30th as a target to get back
weeks
to the Rogers Center. 2 weeks. I mean, that's going to be tough to do. I mean, they're not even looking at opening the border anytime soon. There's a surge of cases in the U.S. The herd immunity, the vaccination rates in Canada. Canada's really being careful to make sure they've got top-notch vaccination rate before they even budge on the border, and bringing all these teams in from the States to play. I don't know. And you know what? Honest, as much as it would be fabulous to get the Jays back in the Rogers Center, you're settled into Buffalo right now. You're halfway through the season. I don't know. Consistency, maybe? Just ride out the rest of the season there. But especially with, again, with the COVID situation. And it's going to be a watch and see over the next 2 weeks.
I just thought it was the worst timing ever for the Jays to have this happen. Yeah. Like, because they've been, pounding the door of the government to let them come back and let the teams come in, and then boom, this happens. It's like, yeah, okay.
Well,
although Toronto FC is back in action this weekend on home field, and they're allowing 7,500 fans in.
Yeah.
So I on the day we're recording this, I know the Deputy Medical Officer of Health for Canada, Dr. Howard New, said in a news conference that it's in good favor, I believe is the quote that he had, that the Jays could potentially return home. Not necessarily July 30th, but sometime in August. They're still trying to finalize everything and have a look at it. Remember as well, the Jays are one of the teams in Major League Baseball to have that 85% fully vaccinated threshold. I don't know if the Yankees are one of those teams off the top of my head, but I do know that there are 7 teams in Major League Baseball that still have not reached that 85% threshold of players and staff to be fully vaccinated. I don't know how that's still possible. And also, not to turn this into a COVID discussion, but if you look at a majority of the new cases around the world, almost all of them are people that are not vaccinated. So that tells you a story. It's all the details you really need right there. It'll be interesting. Would I love to see the Jays come back? Would I love to potentially go to a game? Yes, I would. But, I'm not going to hold my breath on it. But overall, I want to just kind of continue to focus and
go to a soccer game. Go to a soccer game, Ryan. They're there. And maybe if you're lucky, they'll end the championship game in a kickoff or whatever.
I'll just I'll continue watching Chelsea when they get started. I don't want to watch the MLS. No disrespect. It's just not the same.
I was talking about the Euro Cup.
Well, I know you were talking about the Euros, but no, I'll stick with the Premier League. All right, we'll take a quick break.
Great way to end it. Great way to have a championship. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's Italy's happy.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll chat with our wagering expert, Kris Abbott. He's back from Vegas. We'll ask him what that was like, and we'll get some hot bets for the weekend coming up next here on MWO Sports, brought to you by coolbet.co.
This is MWO Sports.
Welcome back to wrap things up here on MWO Sports, brought to you by coolbet.co. Ryan Drury alongside Steve Sabourin and Clarke. Still, we welcome back our original wagering expert, Kris Abbott from Coolbet. Abbott, how are you, brother?
I'm doing good, fellas. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing well, man. We're excited. Major League Baseball getting back to the regular season after a great All-Star break. The Open is going on. Why don't we start there? I mean, the Open Championship at Royal St. George's. Pretty good opening day today as we record this on Thursday. Corey Connors had a good showing at 2 under. Mac Hughes at 4 under, just 2 back of the leader. Louis Oosthuizen after day 1. What do you like here in the Open? Is there anywhere where people should maybe lean over on Coolbet?
I wish I had more insight, but I gotta be honest with you. I was off for a little bit, so maybe check with Pat's Twitter. Like, I don't have a whole lot. Like, Dustin Johnson 22-1 after the first round. I like that. I mean, all I know is there's a lot of value out there after round one. You know, Oosthuizen is plus 475, Jordan Spieth is plus 500, and then there's some really big numbers out there. So I just think it's a real good time to get involved in the middle of this tournament if you're not riding something from the before the opening drive.
Geez, DJ at 22-1. I got $5 burning in my pocket. That sounds pretty enticing to me. Another big event going on in England this weekend. Hey, the British Grand Prix, one of my favorite events of the year. It's going to be a great race. What do you think there? Are you leaning back towards your boy Lewis Hamilton in his backyard, or does my guy Max Verstappen take the checkered flag again?
Well, as I'm looking at it right now, before qualifying, Lewis Hamilton's plus 155 to win. I mean, it hasn't been a good few weeks for him, but I mean, you're right. He's at his home track, plus 155. He's had a ton of success there. I'm going back, but I mean, if you're going to ride the Verstappen train, he's minus 111 as well. So, I mean, it's hard to go wrong with either of those guys at this point, but I'm always going to ride with the plus money. I'm always going to ride with Lewis Hamilton. I don't think he's done. I'd be shocked to see if he didn't turn this around.
I would at least lay money on him to get a podium. And one of my favorite bets in F1 this year, take Max Verstappen's teammate Sergio Perez, to finish top 5. Baseball back this weekend as well. The Jays, they're looking to try and climb the standings here. Is there any, money you'd splash around in this weekend coming up here as we get back to regular season play? I know the Jays definitely take the over in their games.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of runs being scored, and they're playing the Rangers at home, as it were. But I mean, a lot of excitement that maybe they'll be back in Toronto at the end of the month. I would look for the Jays to drop their first game out of the break, though. The Texas Rangers are 2-1 dogs coming in here. The Jays had a number of guys at the All-Star game. I'd be looking to fade them as a massive favorite, or even the Rangers +2 at minus 115. That's how I'm going to look for the first game back.
I don't mind that bet at all. And the Rangers, yeah, they'd give you some plus money for sure. They'd still be an underdog, but they have a sneaky good team as well with guys like Joey Gallo and Nate Lowe. So, yeah, that's probably a good bet as well. And that's why he's our wagering expert. That's Kris Abbott from CoolBet. Thanks for doing this, brother. Good to have you back.
My pleasure, guys. We'll talk next week.
All right, guys, remember, you can listen to this show Friday nights at 6 p.m. on CKNX AM 920 and CKNX.ca. You can watch the show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman. You can also watch the show debuting Friday nights at 9 o'clock on our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media at MWO_sports. And remember, you can find this podcast on all the best podcast apps out there. I'm Ryan Drury. That is Steve Sabourin. That's Clarke, and our wagering expert, Kris Abbott. Hey, we appreciate you guys listening to and watching MWO Sports, brought to you by CoolBet.co.